Hi, it's Andy McLaughlin here from Wisher Guitar Lessons, and last night I was lucky enough to catch the Alex Skolnick trio playing in Glasgow. They are touring to support their latest release, Veritas. Fantastic stuff. And Alex Skolnick is one of my original sort of heroes from his days in Testament. So it was a great pleasure to be able to meet Alex before and after the show. He's a fantastic guy, and he was kind enough to do a 15-minute interview before the show, which you can watch in this video. The lighting is not too fantastic as we were in the back of his tour van, but hopefully you will enjoy listening to what Alex had to say. Thanks for watching. So Alex, you've been a busy guy for the past few years.
Yeah.
Lots of different projects. You know, you've had 2 albums recently with Testament. The trio album did really well. I've seen that you were next to Dave Brubeck in the charts. That must have been cool. You've been involved in arts projects. You've got the DVD set out, the Jazz Education DVD. Lots of different projects. What is the motivation behind these projects?
Yeah. When you list them all together, it does sound like a lot. And I'm working on an acoustic international project now, as well. I've always been very influenced by acoustic guitar, particularly high energy, flamenco influenced. Okay, everything from Django Reinhardt to John McLaughlin, but also traditional music. So I'm getting this album together where I collaborate with traditional music from people from different regions, and get to do a lot of fun guitar stuff, but it's mostly acoustic, and anyway, the whole these are all things, these are all different sides, so I don't just have one side. And I've written a book too. That's
of course, the memoirs.
I just these things, they're in me, and they need to be put out into the world. I cannot.
Does that keep it interesting when you're doing, teaching and writing a book and doing different projects? Is that what keeps you motivated and interested to keep pursuing? Would it be boring if you did only one thing?
Well, I'm also a fan. I'm a fan of good music and good guitar playing. So I think from my first years on the road, it was never limited to one thing. So even though I'm sort of, the most visible thing I do is Testament, and I'm very identified with that, and that's fine. But I do have these other sides too, and to play play heavy metal guitar well, it requires a lot of discipline. And the original guys I listened to were, like the early recordings of Eddie Van Halen and the first Ozzy Osbourne band, and all that stuff. Had great guitar. And if you're going to work so hard on developing technical facility and endurance, why limit it to one kind of music? Especially if you like different kinds of music. I go to different types of shows, and I'm just as moved as when I hear heavy metal.
So I mean, has that always been the case? Because as you say, when you first were on the scene, it was definitely for the Testament thing, and then it seems when you look at the sort of your discography or whatever, it seems like you then moved towards jazz. Was that always something that were you always interested in different styles, and were you pursuing things like jazz even back then?
Not really. I mean, I was about 2 years into Testament, I think, but I have to remember I joined Testament when I was 16.
Yeah, of course.
Which is really only like 6 years from when I started playing guitar. 10, when my motivation was I was a Kiss fan, and I wanted to be a rock star. So I think at that point, that's really where my focus was. But within a few years, I really started to see I started seeing it more as being an artist than a rock star, and then that became more my motivation. I talk about that in my book, just the the sort of awakening and seeing things in different ways, and then eventually leaving the rock star thing completely, going to university and just focusing on music and other interests such as creative writing and philosophy, and then coming back to it and saying, okay, I think I can do the rock star thing, but I think I can do it better. And better musically and with more confidence, because I'd grown as a person. So I think it took a while. It took a long time to develop, and it probably looked crazy. Somebody, no matter what I've done, somebody's always thought I'm crazy. Family thought I was crazy to join a rock band. Fans of my rock band thought I was crazy to leave the rock band. People I grew up with on the West Coast, the Bay Area, thought I was crazy to move to New York. They thought New York was crazy.
It seems then that was almost a lure for you then, the kind of...
No matter what, the thing is, no matter what you do, you're going to, somebody's not going to get it. Or they're not going to get it at the time. And you can look at it now, and it makes sense. It's like, wow, I'm able to play with these, I've got these great musicians I'm playing with here tonight. When I play with Testament, the band sounds better than ever. When you hear me play the acoustic music I'm working on, I think that's going to make sense too. And the only thing that won't make sense is why didn't all this happen earlier? Well, it took a long time to develop it. And to feel ready to do it. I never want. These are all things I've wanted to do for years. I didn't want to do a book that was okay. I feel very good about it, and the people that have read it seem to really connect to it. I feel real good about the music I do, whether it's with the trio or with my acoustic project or with Testament. With Testament, I'm part of a collective, so it's not. I don't control the whole thing. But we're at a place where I like where it's. I think we all like where it's gone. There's things, we're all a little different. Outside of the band, everybody's got different things. Well, Eric's a black metal musician outside of the band. I'm a jazz and world music musician outside of the band, but somehow we make that work. And I look at some of my biggest musical influences. So like a lot of my big musical influences. Pat Metheny goes from the Pat Metheny group, which is this very accessible group that appeals to people that work in offices could listen to it. Smooth jazz fans could listen to it. It's not smooth jazz. It's like very sophisticated. I don't like smooth jazz. I don't think he does.
The instrumentation he uses would lend itself to that.
It's very listener friendly. But he can go from that to collaborating with people like Ornette Coleman or Derek Bailey and cause his other fans to leave the room. And then he goes to his trio, and then now he's got this orchestrion project, and he's just a full genius. I mean, if you just hear him talk, he is a total genius. I don't feel like a genius. I have to work really hard on all these things, but I just feel all these things I do. John McLaughlin, goes from the Mahavishnu Orchestra to Shakti, collaborating with Indian musicians, to the Free Spirit. He's got different groups, different projects. He'll go from one to another. To me, that makes sense. I've always wanted to do that. Very few people in the rock world do that, especially crossing genres. Usually when rock musicians collaborate, it's with very similar musicians. You see that with side projects from rock guys or metal guys. It's usually the same type of musicians. I think what I do is really different because collaborating with, I'm doing my jazz with real jazz players. When I do this acoustic international music, I'm going to be collaborating with real world music players, and that just interests me. So the one of the few people in rock I can think of that bounces around is Dave Grohl. I think he's a great example. He's got some really diverse projects. And then a much older example, not that much, but different generation, is Ry Cooder, who's in the 70s was purely like a blues rock guy, but he's now collaborated with Cuban musicians, with Buena Vista Social Club, African musicians, always like making his thing fit.
Yeah.
So I relate to him I look at artists like that, and that inspires me.
I mean, so summing up almost your kind of philosophy of music that you're talking about, then what kind of advice would you give to guitar students who want to follow in your path? Because obviously lots of players who are like really into the metal thing, they only listen to metal guys or jazz guys, and for somebody like yourself who's really kind of what advice do you give for people who want to try and focus? Is there certain skills that you develop that you can use across the board?
Oh, skills?
Just skills and just the mentality that goes into being that kind of musician. Would there be advice that you could offer?
Well, I think you should definitely be open to different experiences. You shouldn't limit yourself to one type of experience. For example, metal shows are great, but there are a lot of great musical experiences you can have where you sit and you just listen, and there's no mosh pit, and there isn't the whole scene, and it's really just about the music, and that's why jazz and world music appeals to me. I mean, I've heard a lot of jazz and world music that I think would appeal to rock and metal fans, and I try to bring that with my own music, but I know not all of them are going to build an album collection and find the tracks that they relate to.
Yeah.
But I would say there are certain experiences that they would. I think if most metal guitar fans, if they were to go hear like a great gypsy acoustic player, like say Borelli Lagrange, there's a few others from the that circle. It's exciting and it's shredding, but it's just done in a different way, and it's a different experience. You sit and it's like it's elegant. It sort of
has some of the same fire, but doesn't it?
It has the same fire, exactly. So don't limit yourself to be. It's okay. It's okay to have that kind of experience. It's okay to hang out with people that listen to that music.
Yeah.
But hang out with some gypsy jazz fans, or hang out with some jazz piano fans. Not all musicians are closed-minded. In fact, I found a lot. Most of the jazz musicians and critics, that the ones I respect, seem to have a lot of respect for heavy metal.
Yeah.
Obviously, not all do, but not all metal fans and critics respect other genres of music. I think within any genre, you've got your closed-minded people and you've got your open-minded people.
Yeah.
And I think if it's flattering if somebody looks at my path. I have a very odd, unusual path that I sort of found on my own by not really relating to anybody else's path. The one path that I think I may have related to was cut short. Randy Rhoads, who I think did a lot of innovative stuff with Ozzy. And he was always studying guitar. He planned to study.
He was moving in different directions.
Yeah. I think we would have seen him doing some very interesting instrumental music and some cool collaborations. And we never got to see that, but he was a big inspiration in that sense. So it's great that people are open to this. I feel like it's taken many years before to get, for people just to be open to the idea that somebody that's best known for being in a band like Testament can actually have the listening skills and the sensitivity to work with musicians outside the genre.
The discipline too to work in that.
Yeah. I think sensitivity is a lot of it too, because I think part of what happens, playing rock is just being heard. And it's about you. And I think in jazz it's equally or more important to play a supportive role, be able to support somebody else's solo.
Yeah.
And but also rise to the occasion when you get your chance. So it's just, it really opens up this whole new channel of thinking. So
well, I'm looking forward to seeing you rising to the occasion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, it's great to be here.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Alex.
my pleasure.